Wonderful and docile. The other was, a challenge. But, one fact, as you bring out in your book, one fact of all teenagers, of all kids, is they're constantly changing. A teenager one day can be vastly different than a teenager the very next day, or even hours later. I mean, they're kind of volatile. They're kind of up and down. Mood swings are fairly normal, but it's hard to deal with when you're going through it on the other side.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the greatest challenge of parenting, Larry, is that our kids are constantly changing.
Yeah.
I give the example when we first bring our kids home, they're in a basket, we can set them down, we can go do our thing, and then one day we come back 6 months later and they're gone, and the game changes and we have to adjust the house. And so I think when they're young, it's more physically demanding. When they're older, it's more mentally demanding. And it's always emotionally charged.
Well, what advice do you have for parents of teenagers?
My philosophy, I guess, if you will, after 25 years of practicing. So again, I'm blessed to be here with each and every one of you and to share. The first thing I want to say to you is this. I believe the greatest challenge for us parents, and I've got a 15-year-old, so I'm doing the teenage thing, although I don't believe in the word teenager, and I'll speak to that in a moment. And I've got 11-year-olds. So I'm in the midst as a parent, I'm a practitioner, I am a dad, I'm a former teenager myself, all that kind of stuff. And so I think the greatest challenge of parenting is that our kids are always changing. And I remember we brought my first son home and from the hospital, and it was literally on Labor Day, no pun intended. And we had him in this buggy, this basket thing, and he was in the back of the car and got in and brought my wife at the time into the house, got her settled. Went back out to the car, and I'm tugging and pulling on this thing, and I can't get it to snap free, and I'm thinking, gosh, this is how it's going to go. Finally get it loose, take him into the house, set it down, sat on a chair. She was sitting in a chair, and there was silence and just staring at this baby. It's like, what do you do now, Dad? What do you do now, Mom? And so in time, you began to learn the sounds and the coos and all that kind of stuff, and began to figure it out, and began to get a little bit of a rhythm. With this young person. And so by the time 6 months are there, could set them down on a blanket and put some toys around and put the TV on, which, is probably problematic in this day and age. It was PBS. My older son watched PBS till he was 8, 9 years old. My younger son got Cartoon Network at like 3 because of the older son. When you talk about sibling order, right? And so did all that, and I could do my work. I was kind of a stay-at-home dad, but also working these jobs that I was telling you. And because my wife and I she didn't want to be there full time. I wanted to be there, and we made an agreement, and that's how it was. And I remember one day I was on the phone talking, and when I went back to the carpet, he was gone. And the whole game changed. And then you had to baby-proof the house like halfway up the walls, basically. And then another 3 months later, you got to baby-proof it to the ceiling. And I can give you example, I won't because of time, but our kids are constantly changing. I think that is the greatest challenge is once we get in a rhythm with them, then they shift on us. And if we aren't willing to shift, I think the impetus is on us. If we are not willing to shift and grow along the way and awaken to that, then the connection is going to grow greater. And I really do think that is our responsibility as the parent, as the adult, to understand that concept as well, too. And even, when we start to talk about 16, 18, 25, 30, 40, I mean, they're going to continually grow and shift and change. We're going to grow as adults and to keep that connection, because I don't think the connection needs to end when they leave home. And our kids leave home one of two ways. They either leave with a handshake or a hug or one of these. Okay, so to keep that connection, we have to shift and grow. So that's one key point in terms of my philosophy, in terms of helping parents.